Hey you guys, today we're gonna be meal prepping my husband's meals for the week. He works a lot, so he needs something that he can just have with him. He doesn't have to think about it. He knows he can eat it and it works for him. And I have a lot of clients that meal plans are really what works for them, and that's okay. If you're macro counting with me, you're not gonna be using specific meal plans per se, because you have a little bit more flexibility in what you're going to be eating day to day, because that is what flexible dieting is all about. And so there's two different ways that you can prep. You can prep by weighing your food and measuring out, or you can, if you're doing a Beachbody program, you're going to be using these containers. Either way is fine. I have different clients on different things because of their goals. So just know that today my husband is doing the 21-day fix, so we're gonna be using these, but I'm also gonna show you how to do the scale as well. Okay, so the first thing that you wanna do is you wanna make sure you have your meal plan. So if you haven't printed out your meal plan, or if you're doing macros, you should have your macro ratios from me. You need to have those things before you start. Here's my hubby's meal plan right here. And it's all lined out for him. He has 6 meals a day, and if you're eating macros, you should be having between 5 and 6 meals a day is good, and you want to time them out about 2 to 3 hours apart. It doesn't need to be exact. It has to fit in your schedule. I totally get that, but you need to make sure you space them out. So the first meal of the day, he gets up and does his workout in the morning, and then he has his shake before he leaves for work. So we're not planning that meal. Really for him, he just needs meals 2, 3, 4, and meal 5 and 6 is at home at night when he comes home. So when you're looking at your meal plan, or when you're planning out your macros, make sure you're thinking about what meals you're gonna be eating at home. Do you wanna prep those with your bulk prepping, or do you wanna wait and cook them at home fresh when you get home? Either way is fine, whatever works for you. For my husband, we do 3 meals a day, meal 2, 3, and 4 for him. And every meal is gonna have a lean meat protein. And so for this week, we're choosing chicken. Honestly, we choose chicken almost every week. It's just easy. I throw like 8 chicken breasts in the oven, sprinkle it with some seasoning, bake it for 30 minutes, and then I cut them into like little pieces. Oh my gosh, do you hear my kids? It's like mom life, right? Okay, so we're gonna just keep going here. So here's the red cup. Now, because he's on a specific meal plan through Beachbody, we're using these, which is fine. If you're on a macro counting plan, you're gonna wanna use this scale, and you're gonna weigh out your meat. Usually a good ounce weight for your meat is gonna be about 4 to 5 ounces of meat every meal, protein. Okay, so here I go. I'm gonna do all of these. I've got 5 days worth of chicken. Done. Okay, so that was about 8 chicken breasts and just barely made it. And he has already all the protein for 5 days worth of meals. Well, 3 meals each day. So the next thing that we're gonna do is do our veggies. So if you're doing macros, you wanna make sure to have veggies and in each meal, and you need about a cup a meal. And if you're doing Beachbody programming, you wanna use the green cup. And what I do is, I do this weird thing where I use frozen vegetables, okay? Because it's actually really easy. So I buy a big bags of frozen vegetables, and I do not defrost these before I put them in the Tupperware. I leave them frozen, and then the Tupperware sits in the fridge. By the time my husband's ready to eat them, all he needs to do is just microwave and it's good to go. It kind of like saves a step. So it is just easier for me. I'm just gonna put your frozen broccoli or green beans or whatever vegetable you want. I load those up in my meals next, and I know that you're gonna most likely have a vegetable source every meal. So here we go. Side note, he does not like broccoli in every meal, so I try to like add some green beans in there. Because the vegetables are frozen, they make it kind of hard to fit in here. Honestly, with green vegetables, you're safe. So if it's a little bit over, that's totally fine. Well, again, if you're macro counting, you're not gonna have these green cups because these are just for my Beachbody clients. If you're macro counting, you're not gonna use the scale for vegetables. You're just gonna like use a cup measuring or like a half cup depending on how much vegetables you want. And you're gonna measure by the cup, not by the Beachbody containers, okay? But similar type of systems. The next thing on my husband's meal plan is brown rice. And I get these at Costco. They're already like cooked rice. You can get the bags of rice to cook, but I just like this because it saves me a step. And your carb container is gonna be this little guy if you're on a Beachbody plan. If you're on a macro plan, again, you're not gonna be using the Beachbody containers. You're gonna be either weighing your food on a scale or you're gonna be using cups, like that type of measurement. So for rice, usually is this would be probably about a fourth or a third a cup of rice, and that's probably what you would be measuring out if you were doing macros as well. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense. I'm trying to make sense of it. Okay, so here's what the rice looks like, and I'm just gonna fill this little guy up for him as much as I can, and he gets that for one meal every day. Okay, I'm gonna take some of these frozen green beans and get as many as I can into my container. This is his next item. And remember, green veggies, if you go a little bit over, if you use the frozen kind, you're gonna kind of see they don't bend like soft vegetables. So just getting as close as possible is good. And I'm gonna pour them in the containers. If you're on the Beachbody program, this little guy right here is your fat container, so you can fill that up and that counts as like one fat. If you're on macros, again, you're gonna be either using your scale, which is here. This is just like a digital shipping scale you can buy. I think I bought mine off eBay. Or you can get like a food scale, but I'd recommend a digital one for sure. It just makes it more accurate. So if you don't like stuff mixing together, then you might want to get one of those bento boxes, but honestly, like, there is no shame in my game. I can like eat this stuff cold. I can eat it all mixed together. Like at this point, like, I don't know, you just get used to it. Whoops. But if it bothers you to eat your food kind of like all in one container, then definitely get like separate containers. But from my experience, that's a lot of Tupperware. So I just kind of like pour everything together. The last item we're almost done. See, it hasn't been that long. I mean, if you're watching, you're probably, I try to speed stuff up so it's not so boring. But honestly, it's been about 15 minutes since I started and we're almost done with a week's worth of food for him. So this is my next item. Can you see it? It's sweet potatoes and it looks really weird in a Ziploc bag, but let me just tell you, This is amazing, and it saves so much time. I cook these in the crock pot. I peel them and put them in the crock pot for 3 hours on high with no water. And then you come back in 3 hours and you just mash them. I put them in Ziploc bags, probably about about 4 sweet potatoes in every bag. And then I freeze them so that when I'm ready for the next week, we can have more sweet potatoes ready for him. And I eat these as well. So if you ever go to Costco, you can get like a giant bag of sweet potatoes and stuff. I do a lot of bulk cooking and freezing. It works good for us. So again, if you're Beachbody, you're gonna be doing these. I know you've heard me say it a million times already. If you're macro counting, you're gonna be counting your sweet potatoes in different measurements like cups and ounces on FitnessPal, like we've discussed. Because if you're macro counting, you've had a macro coaching session with me. That was under 20 minutes in meal prepping. And if I didn't ramble so much, it probably would have been shorter, but we're done. He's got 5 days worth of meals to keep him on track, and that's what works for him. Again, just a couple things to go over before I end the video. If you're macro counting with me, that means you've had a macro session one-on-one coaching and you know your macro ratios. You're gonna be working on FitnessPal. You can either meal prep or you cannot meal prep because you have the flexibility to kind of do both options. If you are on a Beachbody plan, you are going to be on probably a meal plan. They do have flexible dieting options as well, but I know that we have talked about it one-on-one, so you should know your plan. If you don't know what you're doing with your nutrition, then you need to email me right away so that we can get a game plan for you. But I know I have emailed each of you individually. So we're done. He's got all his meals for the week. He's gonna be on point with his nutrition. And remember, that is the biggest part of losing weight. It's the nutrition. So I hope this made sense. If you guys have questions or comments, post below and let me know and I'll get back to you. Okay, bye.